Welcome back, philosophers! In our third installment of this series, we will now look at feminist conversations and representation within philosophy. The question I posed last video, is Plato a feminist, will now be addressed. In order to evaluate ancient Greek philosophy through a critical feminist lens, it is important to first define what a proto-feminist is. So we're all familiar with the various waves of feminism, however, proto-feminism refers to the eras before feminist concepts were known. So any time before the 18th century is defined as proto-feminism. Therefore, all that we have discussed so far falls under said categorization. So, was Plato a proto-feminist? According to the scholar Dorothea Frede, so far as we know, only Plato among the philosophers of the classical age advocated the equality of women as citizens. Plato is fully aware that this suggestion is nothing short of revolutionary. Though Plato was by no means outspoken on the rights of women, he is nonetheless revolutionary within the context of ancient Greece. Given what we have heard from Xenophon and Aristotle in the last video, Plato appears to be much less misogynistic and appears open-minded in his views on women. His opinions were presented through the Socratic dialogues, and we see arguments such as that the female bears the offspring while the male mounts the female. We will say that it has not yet been demonstrated that a woman is different from a man with regard to what we are talking about, and we will continue to believe our guardians and their women should have the same pursuits, as seen in Plato's Republic. As well, Socrates proposes the equality of women and men in education and government. When met with the objection of natural differences that should lead to different roles in society, Socrates proposes that bald and long-haired men can both make shoes. So what relevant differences are there really between men and women? Take this exchange as further example. Socrates in Plato's Republic says, "Is it possible then to employ an animal for the same tasks as another if you do not give it the same upbringing and education?" To me, this relates to the concept of equity within the conversation of feminist theory. In the discipline, it is common practice that sometimes people need differing treatments to make their opportunities the same as another's. I would say it isn't fair for Athenians to attribute weakness or judgment towards women who have not been given the same upbringing and education as mentioned. Of course, women will be seen as dumb or inferior if they aren't given an education. This is paradoxical in nature. According to the scholars Chelsea Harry and Ron Polansky in the novel Plato on Women's Natural Ability, Plato never suggested that women were by nature limited to the position they occupied socially and politically in 5th or 4th century Athens. He understood the difference between the way they were by convention and the way that they could be in accordance with their nature, were they to develop their natural capacities through education. So that was a bit of information on women in philosophy, and particularly according to Plato. So make sure to tune into the final video in this series, as we'll be discussing a little bit more about representation, and I will give my concluding thoughts.